A very good evening to everyone. Yes, this is Vance at Kopi with Vance. That's right. Hope you all having a fantastic evening. And again, it's my pleasure to be again for the second time. First, earlier on, we was with another guest, and today we are also with another speaker as well to share us more in details, more about a great topic that we're going to talk about. So yes, sit back and um, find out what is this topic all is about. It's about bouncing to the future, right? Without any ado, I'm going to bring in this great speaker. I have a pleasure to have do did a sharing a same platform in Up Your Game 2016, and we spoke on different segments. So it's a great speaker, very motivational speaker as well, a very good friend. I'm going to bring him in and then give him the honor to do some introduction. Let's get the buddy here. Hello there, G. How are you?
Hi, Vance. Very good to see you again. It's a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for those very kind words when you introduced me.
Yeah, thank you. I think the last time we met was about 8 or 9 months back. I think it was in a great platform, Up Your Game 2016 with by Rahul Shah. So I think that's where we get to know each other. So it's a really a small world, right?
That's right.
Thank you, G. So you're saying something? Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So it's indeed a very small world, and see a small connection started to where we are right now. So I think it's a great blessing.
That's right.
So before we go on, as more people are coming on board with this great title that we have today, bouncing to the future. So some might be just wondering, what are we going to talk about at Kopi Events? And you're looking very, very determined and full of confidence today to share with us. So maybe I give you the honor to do an introduction, please.
Okay, Rod. Sure. My name is Ellil, and I'm a double cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with both rectal and testicular cancer in 2011. Right. So it's been 9 years now, and yeah, right now, as Vance mentioned, I'm working in the essential services. I run a security agency together with my cousin, and you need the security officers to look after us, even when there's COVID or no COVID, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I work full time. At the same time, I am involved in a lot of charity work. So, Vanan, do you want me to go into that first, or you want me to talk a bit more about myself?
I think more about yourself because we have almost about a 1 hour of segment here. So we can take it step by step, yeah?
Okay, right. So I'm 61 this year, and I'm married. I live with my wife, and I've gone through a number of jobs. So over the years, I was in the Air Force for a while when I started off. I came out. I was in computers for about 4 or 5 years, and then I was in the metal recycling industry, working for a friend's family business. And I did freelance tuition and all that for a while as well. So I think I finally settled in this line, which is essential services and the provision of security officers to condominiums, commercial buildings, and factories. All right, yeah. And so personally, that's that's about me. And I'll talk further about the journey as we go along, as Vanan prompts the questions.
Okay, thanks, buddy. But also, you're also a director currently, right, in the security services. What is the name of the security services?
Oh, okay. So, director with Hallmark Security Management Services. Right, we are located at the P-Center, but of course, the sites that we assign our officers to are all over the island. Yeah.
So to keep Singapore and all our properties and condominiums safe. So you are the man.
Yeah, just look for me, right? I mean, when it comes to safety, I'm the guy. Yes.
All right. I mean, sharing personal story, I think is very close to everyone's heart. I think, and also it requires a certain level of confidence, certain level of motivation. I mean, we can just keep on talking.
Right.
The number of boosters that we have in terms of psychological, physical, it's huge topic that we can keep on talking. And especially when we coming into sharing of personal experiences, that requires a lot of trust, a lot of just you just want to share the knowledge and the experience that you have. But I know when we talked about bouncing to the future, and there
Yeah,
was a very inspiring real life experience that happened to you, and that's what we are going to share today. And even if you look at our description today, we has mentioned that everyone has their own coping strategy.
that's right.
And me, I had my mom to look after and my wife, so I wanted to be around for them. So that is a very powerful word sentence there. And so I was determined to get better. So that from this sentence already, I'm sure a lot of our live viewers who are watching this, they probably don't know what we are talking about. Of course, and hopefully the medical science will find a cure for cancer. I mean, in the near future or as soon as possible, because this is one of the biggest and the challenges that everyone or most of the loved ones are facing right now.
Right.
Uh, Before I even go on and maybe ask you a few questions, I mean, I lost my dad also last year to a cancer as well. I'm just going to share something. Even in if you look at the WHO, World Health Organization,
Mm-hmm.
um, say that cancer is the second leading cause of death globally, accounting for an estimation of 9.6 million deaths, or 1 in 6 deaths. So that's a bit of a scary statistics. And if I'm jumping back to Singapore, in Singapore, there's about 39 people are diagnosed with cancer every day. 15 people die of cancer every day. 1 in 4 maybe develop cancer in their lifetime. The good news, of course, is early detection and treatment, and if a better clinical management outcomes will be, of course, that will be the blessing. But just let's get into the topic. I mean, when you discovered that you had the cancer, what was the experience and how do you felt? What was going through your mind, and how you able to take such a big paradigm shift from the life that you were living, and suddenly you heard that. How was it? I'm sure it will not many people will be able to take it. It can be devastated. How do you take it? How do you took it?
Okay, so two things here that I think I need to say first. Firstly, my lifestyle before my diagnosis wasn't very healthy, right? So I had a lot of those conditions that could lead to a cancer diagnosis. I mean, I was obese. At that time, I was still smoking pretty heavily, drinking, lots of very high levels of stress. So when I was finally diagnosed, and you are right, no matter what uh, had happened before, when you hear the doctor tell you that, look, you have cancer, it's like they drop a bombshell, right? Your mind goes blank, and lots of things go through your mind. Am I going to survive this? What's going to happen to my family? Um, how am I going to face this, right? And then on top of the fact that they told me I had first rectal cancer due to the scan, maybe I should just explain a bit about how I could have prevented this. There were symptoms very early on. About a year before, there were symptoms. But like most people, or like many people, choose to think that, oh, okay, it's probably nothing. Self-medicate, go and buy medicine off the shelf, and then hope they'll go away. Of course, it didn't go away. It got worse. And by the time I was finding blood flowing, whenever I went to pass motion, and that was the real frightening thing that led me to go and, have it checked. And then they said, yeah, I think you better go for a scope. And it's through the scope that they discovered that it was rectal cancer. So that was the first bomb. The second bomb was because the position of the tumor was very near the anal opening. So I had to wear, or I had to have a stoma created. If you don't know what a stoma is something that is an opening in your abdomen. They pull out a part of the intestine after they cut away the tumor so that you can discharge your stool from that opening in your abdomen. So you wear a bag to collect this stool, and then you get emptied. So that's and that is for life because mine is a permanent stoma. So that was the second bomb. So first rectal cancer, second stoma, and it was a permanent condition. It was going to be a permanent condition. So just when you're dealing with all these things, and then the third bomb was dropped because while they were preparing me for the surgery, they found another lump in my groin, and they removed it and they tested it, and that was also cancerous. So I had testicular cancer as well. So I went in for one condition and found out that I had to deal with three conditions, and it's a triple whammy. And believe me, it wasn't easy coming to terms with it. Yeah. So that is how.
You know,
Yeah.
there were some experiences that I also want to share. I'm sure our viewers also might have faced this kind of situation when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I mean, the whole family was devastated, and there was a lot of visionary or some kind of imaginary that's happening. You know what will happen, and unfortunately, my dad was in the last stage,
Okay.
and
Sorry to hear
the
that.
doctor said, yeah, it's only 3 months to go, and then before he perished from the world. So we were like prepared. So we are actually preparing. And first thing that when someone leaves happily, without any worries or sorrows or any kind of thing, they just go by all these busy life that we have. We just day in day out. But suddenly, when someone hears a very traumatized situation or words, or when especially when doctors can easily collapse the whole entire life and something they have to diagnose, and they're also probably having a very tough time doing that. So that requires a lot of love, a lot of constant caring, and also to make sure that you are comfortable. So I'm pretty sure while in this journey, when you mentioned you was determined to be around, what was the factor that actually you set up your mind and said, nope, I'm going to beat it? Because a lot of time there'll be a lot of factors, emotional factors, psychological factors, physical factors, and constant worrying. So that will also detrade your life way much more below. I mean, because hey, it's not a simple thing, it's going to be a life and death. So in that aspect, what was your biggest motivation at that point of time?
Right. So after I deal with the shock of the diagnosis and everything, then of course they line up a treatment for you. So in my case, my treatment was surgery to remove the tumor, and then adjuvant therapy, which means radiation. I went through 28 cycles of radiation and 8 cycles of chemotherapy. So the entire treatment took me about 6 months. So when you are going through these things, you have very long periods of medical leave, and there's a lot of time for reflection. I mean, this is the time where you really think about, right? So where is this all going? Here you are, a cancer patient going through treatment. So what's in store for the future? And then you start thinking about purpose of life. So what do I want to do? Is it only me? You see, the thing here is that when someone is diagnosed with cancer, right, and he goes through all these things, it's not only he himself who is affected. The entire family is affected. All right, emotionally, physically, mentally, they're affected. They worry for you, right? They want you to get better. They see you in pain. They can't take the pain away from you. So yeah, and I decided after all the thinking, I decided, look, I am going to beat this thing because number one, I had an aging mom. All right, she was in her 80s already, late 70s, early 80s, and of course, I had my wife. I lived with my wife, and these are two very important people, and I wanted to be there for them. And if I cannot get through this, I can't be there for them to, you know, take care of them in times of need. And to me, that was the greatest motivation, right? Yeah, and so I was determined to beat this thing, and face all the treatment head on. Make sure that you follow all the directions given by doctors, take all the medication, whatever treatment. All right, and that to me was the motivating factor, really, to see through the treatment and to get better and recover as quickly as possible.
Well, during this process, of course, you also seek medical attentions and all, and follow up with your medical very religiously. In the same time, the mindset and also your motivational factors that came from two of the powerful ladies, right? One is mom, and another one is wife. So both
Right.
of the ladies, your angels, was there for you to make sure that you are fine and be able to make it. But what was the mind what because our mind is such a fascinating mechanism that's been created ever in this entire world, entire universe. So sometimes the mind will give us constant talks, constant worry, so that could also detrate anyone's life,
Yeah.
even in the good times or even not so good times. But during this kind of situation, when you hear such a tremendous news about yourself, you need to have that willpower. So will you say that willpower is one of the most important thing that actually beat it off? Because most of the time when you hear a news, you either you take it and fight it, or you melt it and you disappear. So there's a big huge thing that's going on, and I'm sure those who have lost their loved ones in cancer, it's a very tremendous thing because I have experienced it. What was the main factor? What was it? Will you say it's a willpower, or what was going in your mind?
Right. So I think you're absolutely right. Willpower plays a big part, but I think just before the willpower comes the motivation again. Because if you are motivated to do something, then you will develop the willpower. How strong is your motivation? How strongly do you feel about what you want to achieve? The stronger you feel about it, the more motivated you are, and the more willpower. So I think it's in the mind. Of course, there are people who have a different mindsets, who have different states of mental strength, and they may have other issues. But I was very fortunate. And I think apart from having the willpower, having the motivation, the support structure that you have around you is so very important. I had my caring wife, I had my mom, my immediate family, my extended family, my friends, they were absolutely fabulous. All right. So during the time when I was there at home after chemotherapy, cannot go to work, they take turns to call you, chat with you, find out how you are, cheer you up. And friends, my friend would accompany me for my chemotherapy sessions, stay with me, disturb all the nurses in the cancer center. Then we'll go for dinner. So these things are very important. They first of all help you to go through that process and manage that so that you don't feel the pain and the loneliness, and at the same time knowing that they are there for you in times of need is so reassuring that you focus on your recovery. And I must add that my employers were also brilliant. They kept me on the payroll where I was working for a metal recycling company then. And they said, look, if you can come to work, you come, otherwise you just stay at home, stay contentable. If anything, we just call you. All right. And that is a big load off your mind, because you don't have to worry about keeping your job or losing your job and don't know where your funds are going to come in. So you see, I was very blessed. Not only did I have a fantastic care team, both in the hospital for the surgery as well as the National Cancer Center with my oncologist. I also had brilliant employers who were very tolerant of my condition, and this support structure, family, extended family, and friends. And I think it's all a combination of factors rather than one alone. Because if you have the willpower and you don't have the support structure, it is going to be so difficult. Yeah,
You said it so beautifully. I mean, it's coming up from my experience. A lot of us, I think we live day by day. We never worry about life, what's going to throw at us. If a lemon throw at us, we either going to squeeze it and drink it. If not, we throw back the lemon at the wherever it comes from.
yeah,
And of course, with so much of like surrounding, all right, the surrounding is always constant pressure with work. We work more than ever before, or working more than the bull does or the cow does. And if you look at it, sometimes you don't appreciate life. We don't appreciate life. We don't understand the meaning of life. Sometimes we just keep on abusing the body in terms of physical, in terms of food, or in terms of sleep, or even in a matter of basic thinking of drinking water. So all these necessary essentials, we don't really pay attention to our body. And when suddenly something came up and traumatized or shattered our life, then we start to realize. And you also said it beautifully, but the kind of willpower that you had, and you try to push in, and came through a big path in your way of recovery. And I also do know that you also actively involved in a lot of uh, organizations, especially with cancer societies. And I have seen as well on your posting. And there was a recent posting that I also noticed that it came in by Channel News Asia. There was a
Mm.
very interesting article that I think it was shown in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 1st of July. That was by um, Channel News Asia. So that was also like a very inspiring story that you have been featured in CNA. And that was a very powerful sentence that every day I wake up is a bonus. The double cancer survivors set to track to Kopi's desert. So apart from that, you also, I said, what the heck, I'm going to go ahead and explore the world. And you did it. So maybe you want to explain maybe you want to share with us how the kind of situation that you just recovered and recovering, double cancer, survivor. So what was going through your mind? I mean, are you made of steel, or what was, how can you do that? Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, okay, I'm definitely not made of steel, all right? So I'm very human. I have my limitations. So what happened really was that when I was, recovering, I think to myself that you start thinking about life. Before you get diagnosed and all that, yeah, you talk about meaning of life. People can talk to you the meaning of life, and you say, it's very abstract. It doesn't strike you as being very important. But when you have a cancer diagnosis and you're dealing with two cancers, and then life becomes quite uncertain. Because as much as the treatment that they can give you, right, the chances of relapse, the chances of the cancer spreading is always there. Okay. So this element of uncertainty of how long are you going to be around for, right? Life expectancy of men in Singapore, I think, is now increased to 85, and for women is 90. But then our life expectancy as cancer patients, we don't know, right? Because anything can happen between now and whatever. So with the time that we have remaining, could be 5 years, could be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we really don't know. What are we going to do? Are we just going to go to work, bring back the money, pay the bills, stay at home, go to work, come back, get salary, pay the bills? I mean, there has to be more to life than that. All right, that is what I realized. And this is when I decided that I want to do something. I want to be of use to society. I want to be of use to other patients who have the similar condition, other cancer patients. What can I do to make their journey a bit easier? What can I do to, for example, create awareness so that people can prevent the disease in the first place? Why need to go through something like me? Why must they make the mistakes to learn? I've made a mistake. Now I tell you, look, go for a healthy lifestyle, exercise, eat well, go for screening, and you can avoid it. And that's really what gave me the motivation. So for the earlier picture that you showed, that feature was done by a very awesome reporter called Matthew Mohan. He's still working for CNA Digital, and that was prior to raising funds for the Singapore Cancer Society. The expedition that we went on to raise funds for Singapore Cancer Society, and that was something leading up to it. And I work a lot with the Singapore Cancer Society, basically because of the cancer survivors that they go to the society for help. And I work in many other programs, right, to advocate, to share, and also to organize fundraising activities. And that was the first one that was involved because there are a few things, there are a few elements to this expedition. The first element was, of course, the fundraising element. The society helps many needy patients, all right, by way of programs, financial assistance, psychosocial support. But to run all their programs, they need money. And so the first motivation was to raise the funds to help needy patients. Now, the second motivation was to show other cancer survivors that once you have a cancer diagnosis, it doesn't mean the end of the world. there's still so many things that you can do. And that was to say that I'm not saying everybody must go to the desert or go and, trek in minus 35 degrees centigrade like what we're doing here. But yeah, don't stop living, right? And the third message really was to people with the condition, with the stomach, who have to, wear it for life, manage the bag. I say even that shouldn't stop you from living your life, because you can go to the desert at plus 40, plus 45 degrees centigrade with that. And you can go to the winter snowy region, minus 35 to minus 50 degrees with that. So why can't we just lead the life like we used to? Be active, have fun, and don't let it stop you from living. So these were the messages that I want to put across when I go for these expeditions.
So this picture, if you can look at it, I mean, I'm not sure you're actually doing the viper, and you seems very serious, man. I mean, people are like, wow, look at that, with tons of perspiration. And I also know that you're also a very hardcore gym goer, and you also train with a trainer. And I'm sure you're doing like 2 times or 3 times a week. I know. I mean, I've been following you, and you've been contacts, and we exchanged some ideas before. So
Yep.
no, it's like tons of motivation, be a true inspirational story for a lot of people out there. Um, but again, I like to come back to that same question that I asked you
Uh-huh.
when you heard the news, and you told us that in the past where there's a lot of activities that you have done, unhealthy activities, stress factors we are involved, food wise, drinking excessive alcohol, something like smokings and all that. I mean, all these can be also be in a high risk factor. But
Right.
apart from that, there are also sometimes like a healthy adults also might get cancer as well. So it's very very unpredictable, and a bit of not strange, but more very serious things can happen to anyone, especially when they're off guard. So I think, what will your advice be in terms of medical checkups? Because we've been speaking to a lot of doctors. You also been with the Singapore Cancer Society,
Right.
actively playing a volunteer role, and I've seen many of the times that you have also conducted lessons, helping people, and conducting conferences as well, and speaking events, engagements. So, what will be the suggestions that you might have in a yearly medical checkups, or what one should be looking forward for in terms of getting their body checked or health checked?
Okay. So I think for most of us, and it's only natural, we tend to pay attention to the physical symptoms that our body we can feel, things that we can see. So, but the more important thing, I think one of the most important things is you need to manage your stress levels as well. All right, you need to know when you have reached a stage where you are unable to handle your stress and you need to go and seek help, or you manage the stress levels yourself. Keep it to a manageable level, because you're not here alone. You have your family, and if you're highly stressed and you cannot manage your stress, then it's going to affect everybody, right? So managing stress levels, I think, is so important. That's number one. Number two, you need to, of course, lead a healthy lifestyle, which means, um, of course, balanced diet, healthy eating, enough sleep, enough exercise, right? And that's number two. Number three, you need to pay attention to symptoms that occur in your body. For example, in my case, is rectal cancer, right? So if there's a change of bowel habits, you used to go to the toilet to poo once a day for maybe your entire life. Suddenly you're going 4 or 5 times a day. If it happens for 1 or 2 days, fine. But if it persists for a week or so, then it's time to go and check. Don't think that, oh, it's probably nothing. It's probably the nasi lemak that I ate or the laksa that I ate. Then you tend to, rationalize why you're having that. Go have it checked. A golden rule for me is 2 days. If by 2 days your condition does not clear, go have it checked. Right? So pay attention to the symptoms. And the earlier you go and have it checked, the better, because early diagnosis, you mentioned it earlier, Vanan, right? Early detection means so much. You can nip the problem in the bud. You don't have to get the disease. Even if it's the early stages of the disease, if you detect early, there are so many options, there's so many treatments, and you can have 100% cure. All right, and that's number two. And number three, for people who are older or in vulnerable groups, then I cannot overemphasize the importance of screening, because screening can pick up so many things early. Sometimes the symptoms are not, you don't feel the symptoms until you go for the screening. For example, if you're looking for any symptom of colorectal disease, then the FIT kit test, which actually the Cancer Society provides free of charge, can tell you that, look, there is something there, we need to investigate further. Now, if you don't do that screening right, by the time you feel the symptoms, it might be too late, right? And there's so many screening programs that are run by charities like the Singapore Cancer Society, by the Health Promotion Board, in the polyclinics. They all advocate screening. Certain age group, you need to go for this screening. For ladies, you need to go for this. Please, when you're advised to go for screening, go for it. You don't know how important it is to go for screening. So these are three things really that I think are important. One is to lead as healthy a lifestyle as possible, which includes balanced diet, enough sleep, proper exercise. Don't drink too much. Don't smoke. Right? That's one. Two is manage your stress levels. Right? And three is go for screening. And of course, the medical checkup that you mentioned is also a form of screening. They can catch whether you have a persistently high level of cholesterol or whatever, and then they can treat it early.
Buddy, I think you have mentioned it very nicely as well, also in terms of the importance of screening. A lot of us, I think, there's always a fear. What happens if? What happens if? So even in the past weeks that we have talked with a couple of doctors, also the same thing. You at least twice a year you go for your medical checkup, and if it's any situation that happens, then you have to do a frequent increase on your visit to the doctor, and your medications to be adjusted accordingly. But I think one of the factors that a lot of us worry is, what if it happens to me? So they'd rather be in a suspense rather than the doctor tells them, hey, you know what, you got this, you got to fix this. So it could be the fear, but I think the most real fear is when you don't get it checked, when you don't go for your medical screening, and then when the news comes to you, I think that's going to be even more devastated. But how could we, or how could someone, even though we know all the, because thanks to you, because now we know that Singapore Cancer Society also does a lot of screenings, and in complimentary as well, also like you mentioned. But what could be the fear that one who doesn't want to go? What will be your humble advice to them, for those who are afraid to go for their checkups, or even if they're worried to even go for that yearly or twice a year medical checkup? What will your humble advice to them?
Okay, so before I come to the humble advice, I want to stress something very important, which is your family and friends. All right, you are loved by many people. So whatever you are going through, right, like it or not, they have a stake in it. So if you're unhappy, you'll be affecting them. If you're unwell, they get worried. So if you really care for your family and your friends, then you owe it to them to make sure that you get screened and you get checked and catch whatever it is early, so that they will not be put in a situation where I'm sure they will be looking after you, but you're going to put them in a very difficult situation, especially if it's a very serious condition that they have to look after you. And more than the looking after you, which I don't really think any family member will mind, it's more the stress that they undergo because of the pain and the uncertainty that you are going through. So it's never you alone. It's always you and your loved ones. So for their sake, right, go have it checked, lead a healthy lifestyle, because it's never only you, right? It's your loved ones, and they must be the reason why you need to do all these things. And that's how I feel.
And also we also know that early detection and treatment also have a higher chances. It's by clinical and management outcomes. So I think if anyone have any symptoms, even a pain or even a cough, especially during this period where the COVID-19 is controlling most of us. Even
Right.
we don't have the benefit or the luxury to sneeze loud. For me, I like to sneeze loud. Achoo, kind of get the
Yeah,
law.
I can just.
But nowadays you got to be so conscious about what you do. Hygiene. I mean, of course we are hygiene, but I'm sure you agree, and many of them will agree also. When you want to sneeze, you don't want to. You want to achoo. That the whole universe can hear. But of course, that's a part on a serious note. I think like what you have said it. Go for the medical checkups and early detection. That plays a very important part for
That's right.
every. Do you think that exercise plays an important part? Which I think, of course, and also we have saw some of your pictures that you also have shared. Some actually quite very, what shall I say, very interesting because you tend to do a lot of exercises, like in terms of Viper. So, shall we talk a little bit more on your exercise regime? How do you do that, and where you get the motivation from? What's your
All right.
trainer?
Okay. So I'm 60. I'm 61 this year. One of the things that I really want to do is to remain independent physically, to be able to do things for myself as long as I can. So in order to do that, you have to maintain your strength. You have to maintain your flexibility, and you need to maintain your muscle mass and your bone density strength. All right, and to be mobile. And if I want to continue, I mean, I'm very passionate about the volunteer work that I do, the causes that I represent. If I want to continue to do them, for a long time, then the first thing I must do is look after myself, right? And so I think if you want to look after yourself well, of course, as I mentioned earlier, diet is a very important part. Stress management is a very important part. And the third thing really is exercise, because if you don't exercise, I believe you will lose your bone. I think it's bone mass density. I don't know what's the exact term. Then you become very susceptible to breaking your bones when you fall. All right, and then you lose strength. And if you don't maintain that flexibility, then it affects your mobility. All right, so active aging, aging well, I think is so important, and that really is my motivation. That's why I got a trainer who is my friend, and I tell him what my motivations are. I'm not going to, I don't want to look like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, but just maintain. And I'm also a foodie. That's a big problem because I love my food. We live in Singapore, and I just love food. And if you just, don't do anything about it, if you don't exercise and you just eat and you go to work and come back and sleep, it will take its toll, and then you'll find that you have a lot of problems. So exercise really is something that's very important, not only to maintain strength and mobility and flexibility, but also to keep you alert mentally. And I feel it, and I don't work out as often as you say I do. I go to the gym once a week. It's a public gym, but I do some exercises at home. I do brisk walking, right? And some other sports. I used to do dragon boating once a week and stuff like that. So just keep myself active. And I think one of the other important things, I mean, I do Zumba and line dancing as well. And the other
Wow,
important, yeah. So the other important aspect of all this is that the social gathering, being with friends, sharing, right, interacting, all these give you a high, right? Which is very difficult if you just do things alone and keep yourself and your own small circle of friends. And there's so much support out there. Yeah, and I think group activities are excellent. So you look after yourself, you do your exercises, you go to the gym. At the same time, try and get involved in activities that involve groups of friends, and you'll find that you have so many sources of support. That's my personal experience.
so even if you look at right now, you are very actively involved in a lot of charity works, and even if you look at the picture, you're also doing lots of exercises outdoors with a nice cool bandana. Looks like a different, a little mafia, but then it's still not close to a mafia yet. This article was actually very well covered by CNA as well in 2018, and there's a lot of things that they a lot of share, and a lot of friends. Then support is very important as well, and I think that is where I think you have all the support in getting better, and you decide. That's why you said yes. I'm going to make it, and of course, with God's blessing as well.
Of
We have
course.
one viewer that asked us a good question. I'm actually going to bring it and see if I can just read it up. She said
Sure.
that physical can be done by screening. How about mental stress? Asia don't take mental health seriously, and parents also told us to suck it up. If we rise in a form of relief, by the time volcano evolves, erupts, it's too late to manage. How can we change these mindsets? So I think Audrey is like really asking straight to the point. Thank you, Audrey, for the question that you posted us. What do you think on regarding about this? We are talking about a little of mental health, also by physical. What is your take on that?
All right. So I think number one, thanks for the question, Audrey. And I think you're spot on. You have mentioned a lot of things that actually cause stress to us, and our Asian mentality. With the tiger mums and all that. Even um, uh, in the early days, right? Asian moms, whether you're Indian, Chinese, they tend to push you, and especially going to school, you come back and they look at your grades, and they keep stressing you out. And I think number one, awareness is very important, and you have taken the first step. You are aware of all these things, and I'm sure right now places like the Institute of Mental Health, it used to be only people who had, the mindset was only people who are crazy go to Institute of Mental Health, right? But nowadays they see a lot of cases of executive managers who are going there to seek treatment to handle stress levels. So awareness is the first step. If you're aware that you're going through it, then you can seek help through these avenues. And as for parents, I think parents also need to be educated. There need to be forums. Maybe I think the schools should conduct these forums. To tell them to recognize if your child is not coping well. What is the underlying problem? It may not be that it's not. It may not be for the want of trying. The child may be really trying very hard, but there are other issues that maybe you need to pay attention to. So I think awareness in parents must also be greater. It's never one solution for everything. There are so many aspects to the problem, and you have to approach it in a multifaceted manner. So educate the parents, educate the children, educate the teachers, so that they are able to pick up signs from the students, and then maybe approach the parents and maybe counseling. As for adults, maybe a bit also, I think education is a big part. You can get awareness creation in your faith group. If you belong to a church or a temple, they can conduct these sessions for adults. All right. So I think at so many levels, I think there is a need for people to know, how to handle their stress levels and to recognize the warning signs, the alarm bells, so that it doesn't get too advanced and then it's a problem. Yeah. But it's a very valid question, and I think work needs to be done at various levels to address that.
Thank you to the both of you all for the Q&A. But just to add on stress, I think our kids are also currently having lots of stress. I mean, you were a teacher before, so you can definitely can relate to this more better. But I think it's because of that competition level. I mean, we got no choice, right? We are living in a fast-paced world. We can't be saying that our kids can just come and relax. There's always a reason why the kids have to go early in the morning. It's creating a culture. It's creating a habit. You can't afford to develop something that is not what we want in the future. So they are the next leaders, and it's a great topic to talk about. But again, there's a lot of stress factors as well. Like we hear a lot of bullies and the kind of workload. Some children able to get it well and move on, but some children might not having able to do that. But the great thing here right now, thanks Audrey for that particular question, because even schools also they have counselors right now. But even back in then, when I was studying, I don't think so. There was a counselors at all. There wasn't any counselors. So we have evolved so much better. But I think counselors also plays a very important part in schools. I think most of the schools they have it, and I know some of them as well. They always coach the children and they see signs and symptoms of um, behaviors, whether they're isolating themselves, are they crying so much, and they always keep parents, and they're doing. Everybody's doing their part. I think as a parent, I think we also plays a part, isn't it? As a teacher, what do you think? I mean, back then when you were a teacher, how many years ago? How many decades ago?
So
One decade, two decades.
just to set the record straight, I was never a teacher in the school.
Okay.
Or I'm not MOE trained. I teach at tuition centers. All right,
Okay.
I teach private tuition. Yeah, but I do recognize the sense of stress. That's why when my students come to me in the evenings after a long day at school, I tend to take that into account, and the way I interact with them is slightly different. I totally appreciate the kind of things that they go through in school for the entire day, and to come to the tuition class after the day and to be told to pay attention and focus and do that. I think it is totally unfair to them. So my approach is always different. It is focused on learning rather than just blindly being disciplined and sitting there and doing work. And no learning takes place because they're just too tired. So you need to find different ways of making them learn, making them do work, and making them learn are two entirely different things. They can finish a worksheet for you, but are they learning anything from it is a different question, right? So to be able again to recognize the signs of fatigue and all that, and sometimes you also go down to being a sounding board for the children. Sometimes they come to you with their problems at home, at school, and we do our best to help them navigate these problems and give them advice. And when we think it's necessary, we actually reach out to the parents to say that maybe it's something that your child has not shared with you, cannot share with you. So I think it's a village. It takes a village to raise a child, and everybody from the teacher to the tutor to the parent to the neighbor to the friend should get involved, because children are our future and we should all have a stake in their upbringing.
It was said very well. I mean, as a teacher as well in a tuition center, I think you have faced, and of course, those who are on the front line, especially even for teachers as well, they play a very significant role, very fantastic role they are playing in the role and development of a child after parents, right? So, and teacher also keeping very great communications between both, and they see, and any they, I mean, they can be very strict, but at the end of the day, it must have a passion for what they are doing right now. So moving up to our last, pretty much the last question for the day, and after that we are just going to ask the final question to you, and then we're going to finish up the session. But
Sure.
you've been doing a lot of expeditions, right? Like
Yeah.
and some are really harsh expeditions. And the one that expedition that you have just did not too long ago, I think it was in December, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And
December 2019.
yeah, 2019, right? So
Yeah.
is this the one we are looking at? Is this the one you shared? 8 to
That's
the
right.
9th? Maybe you want to share that a bit of experience, what was going on in your mind. I know there were some challenges for most of them in the kind of weather. 50C, we are at already about 17C already. We can sometimes feel that's cold. How do you prepare for this, and how do you overcome that?
Okay, so a number of things. When you say there were some challenges, I think that is understatement. So there were many challenges for everybody, right?
Okay.
And especially for me, because I still do have some lack of strength and stability in my legs. And so I'm very thankful to not only the expedition leaders, first of all, to Beyond Expeditions, which is the tour company that actually does this. They are a tour agency with a heart, and they do lots and lots of charity expeditions to raise money. And they've planned it in such a way that a 61-year-old with mobility issues can go to a place like this. And I can tell you that it was extremely dangerous in many areas. And everyone in the expedition had challenges. And Scott, I must really mention Scott Tay and Henry Law. They were the two leaders of the expedition, and together with the Mongolian guides, they made sure that each one of us, no matter what our ability, physical ability, was able to complete the entire expedition. Yeah, the cold was one of the biggest challenges, especially at night. The mountain slopes, very narrow paths, and yeah, they were also extremely scary and dangerous. But the beautiful part was when we actually came to the place where the reindeer herders were, and we were among the reindeer, and it was like, you didn't have to go to Finland or Greenland or what to get the reindeer. It was there in front of you, and it was so beautiful. And one thing I cannot forget to mention is the the Mongolians, their warmth, their spirit, their attitude towards life, their resilience, their strength. There's so many things we can learn from them. And I think every one of us, my advice to every one of you is to at least once in your life go on such an expedition where you can experience the life of the nomads as well as enjoy nature in its sheer unspoiled beauty. And yeah, I tell you, go once, you'll be hooked, really.
Thank you, thank you. Is this the reindeer that we are talking about? Can see a reindeer behind without the
Oh
setup.
yes. That is me, and that is my cousin, my wife's cousin actually. She's another passionate lady, passionate about helping the less fortunate. And that's why she came to the expedition to raise money. Yes.
Thank you so much. We are almost at 51 minutes. It was true, inspiring story that you actually shared. I don't even say it's a story. I think it's a personal journey that you have shared. We have also few comments that's come in, like everyone saying hi, and we even have one of our doctors here as well. Hello, Dr. Mugil. Thank you so much for coming in. She said that well explained. We're also planning to do like a mini conference in the next coming months. We're going to get lot of people in as a speakers and then going to showcase and share some knowledges as well. So let's tune to that. But in between for this period where we are coming almost to the last segment, so
Right.
what is life tips or tip or advice for the day? What will you be telling us?
Okay. So okay, how should I put it? Right. Maybe I'll share it in our own perspective. Right. So life is short, and the time you have with your loved ones, your family and friends is so important. So make sure that you remember to make good memories with your family and friends. And again, as a 61-year-old with a condition, um, when I think about doing things, I ask myself two questions. If not now, then when? And if not me, then who? Right? So the first part is for things that you want to undertake and you always put it off, right? The
Yeah.
second one is if you want to get involved in something, if you believe in a cause, somebody has to do something. So if it's not you, then who? So I think that is something I live by.
Thank you so much. I mean, not everyone will come to the social media and share something like about a life experience, and some will be just a bit shy, some are just a bit of concern, but you have been doing this for many years. Yeah, I think a couple of years you've been doing, and also been very actively doing community work as well, and creating awareness and joining venture with Singapore Cancer Society as well. See many of your pictures, truly very inspiring. I'm sure our viewers also have the same feeling that I'm having as well. Thank you so much for joining with me in Kopi with Events and sharing such a wonderful life experiences. In this platform, we just want to have a great sharing of knowledges in terms of personal experiences. I think that where it touches most of the people of understanding how life can be so precious. The next day we don't wake up, that's it, right? We are considered a past. We become a picture, we become a picture in the wall. So that's how fragile life is, and you have said it so beautifully. Is there anything else you want to add on?
Yes, I think number one, I want to thank you for creating this platform for not only me, but for the other uh, friends who have come and shared their experiences, their advice. And it's very important to have as many platforms as we can where we can reach out to friends on multiple media, various media which they are comfortable with. And it is to share and learn from one another. And really, thank you so much for doing this and for inviting me on to have coffee with you. Of course, I don't see any coffee.
Okay, but I'm having it by just water. But I really enjoyed that having a great chat with you, and I'm sure we are going to do something because we are planning to do some seminars or along the way to come by. I'm sure we can get connected, and once we kick the butt of the COVID, then we can start start planning. Or maybe we should start discussing already.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Great.
much. I'll catch you offline, and thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Vanan. Thanks, Vanan, for having me. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.